To be in the book of Leviticus. Leviticus chapter 13. All right. So if we try to go back and review a little bit tonight, let's try to remember with your own memory. Now, just shout it out. You know what it is. Each chapter, from 1 through 5, there's an offering, right? In chapter 1, what's the offering? Burnt offering. In the second chapter is the grain or meat offering in the King James. 3, peace sign, right? Peace sign. Okay. Number 3, peace. Number 4, sin offering. And number 5, trespass offering. We know that chapter 6 and chapter 7 just give further details. What's chapter 8? Getting the priests consecrated, getting them washed up, getting them preparing all of it, right? Preparing the priest. And the first sacrifice is in chapter 9. That's right. And of course, the tragedy of chapter 10 is the two boys, Nadab and Abihu. All right, so 2 sons. Aaron had 4 sons, right? And so the next one, who's the last 2? Ithamar. Very good. Now, that's chapter 12. And what was in chapter 12? What was in chapter 11? Oh, yeah. So in chapter 11 was clean animals, right? Right? Everything's about being clean. So let's start here and talk about these chapters. Chapter 11, chapter 12, chapter 13, chapter 14. Okay? In chapter 11, is that the animals?
Yes.
All the different animals that about need to be cleansed, right? The animals. Chapter 12, childbirth. Childbirth. Tonight, we're going to take 13. Right. What I'm going to tell you is to remember it like this. 13 is the bad number, leper. That's why I just, because that's easy. Everybody, bad. Chapter 13, that's bad, leper. And it's going to continue over into chapter 14. Yeah, there's still leprosy over the third world countries. Yeah, not in America. Not in America, but we had something like that with COVID where you couldn't touch nothing. Everybody was scared to touch something behind somebody. Yeah. Well, it spread like that, and people were afraid. Well, I got enough dead people in my practice, I can tell you, and I still see them today. God, not like up north. It was bad. But I'm saying something. Leprosy is that contagious, and it was much more because it wasn't just that you died; it disfigured you. It was like you were living dead. You know. If you ever listen to some of the old Ravi Zacharias preaching, he quotes the storyline from one of the old preachers, G.K. Chesterton, who talked about how he was one day looking, it was some resort he was at, but he went out into the river to go out and to swim some. And as he was going down, he noticed there was a young girl, lady was in the river down below her. And he started going towards her, found out she didn't have no clothes on. And he said, you know, the closer he got, and when he got close enough to see her, she didn't have her nose. And you could tell that because that's what leprosy does. It eats the fingers away. Her nose was gone. She looked like a skeleton. The stringy hair, most of her hair had fallen out. And he said he thought about how hideous this woman looked. He said until the Holy Ghost looked at him and said, look at your own heart. Which is worse, because she's trying to hide herself. And here you are going down there for that reason. And he said, it made me look at my own life. And he said, thinking about how leprosy is. Leprosy was always associated with sin. Okay? And leprosy, very, very contagious. And it would kill you, but it took years and years and years. And of course, I can't even remember his name. Remember the famous father who went to the lepers over in the island in Hawaii?
Yeah, I can't remember his name.
I can't remember his name, but he went to minister to the lepers, and he gave his life to them until one day he called them brothers because he had leprosy as well, and he died there, and they buried him. And when the thing is, he was from Belgium, they came to exhume his body and take him home because they found he was a national treasure because of the great work that he had done. To honor him, they were going to bring him home, and they begged him, and they cut off his arm because that's the hand that took care of us. And his arm is buried still there in Hawaii. I can't remember the place. It's a story there. You can look it up on Google it. But leprosy was a terrible disease, and it does this. And if you look at the figure, look at it online, it was an awful disease. Well,
do you know, as a doctor, do you know what caused it? I mean, I know the Bible don't tell us.
It's a virus. If I'm not mistaken, it's a virus that causes it. I remember they used to use the drug Dapsone, but that's been a long time since I've looked it up. It's been eradicated. There's no leprous camps in America. We used to have TB camps when you're growing up, polio, we'd isolate people. Leprosy was like that, but now with this treatment. But in third world countries, they don't have what we have.
But I have seen the skin disease on some people that look like leprosy, but they had syphilis. Cause the boils that come on their skin and stuff. Well, back in the 50s, they said it killed a lot of people.
It did.
Syphilis did.
Syphilis back in early 2005, 2015. Robeson County was highest in the nation.
Syphilis.
Yeah. But worse than that, you'll see, if you ever seen someone with really bad psoriasis or eczema, I've got some people on the new drugs, and it's really wonderful. But their scales, they itch. But this disease here, it eats away. It's a terrible disease. Okay. But chapter 13 and 14 are about leprosy. Now, I won't take a lot of time trying to go through these and trying to explain everything. You can read it at your leisure. But I think it's important as we go through here, we'll do our best just to go through the first part about the what leprosy is. 13, you diagnose it, right? 14 is after you're cleansed. What do you do about it? That's just the difference in the two chapters. But both of them are about leprosy. Let's dive in now, okay? We have just finished talking in chapter 12 about a woman when she has a child, and I forgot to write that at the top. How did I forget that? I get off track so easy. This is about all this has to do about being clean. To cleanse a person, okay? How do you cleanse an individual? Being pure, getting rid of sin. All this is about that, there's unclean things out there. And he talks about the animals, what's clean and what's unclean, how a woman, if she's unclean for a certain amount of time. Now leprosy. Chapter 13, and the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron, saying, when a man shall have in the skin of his flesh a rising, a scab, or a bright spot, and it be in the skin of his flesh, and you can underline this here, like the plague of leprosy. Then, and it says like, but shall he be brought unto Aaron the priest, or unto one of the sons of the priest. Now, the big thing to remember here, religion. The priests were in charge of diagnosing the medical illness. The priests were in charge. Aaron or his sons. That was put on them, their responsibility. And the priest shall look on the plague of the skin. Very clear of what this is. It's a plague of the skin. Hold on just a minute, if you would, please. I got to get back to my commentary. I apologize. Sometimes of the flesh, and when the hair in the plague, underline that word hair, and turn white, and the plague in the sight be deeper than the skin of his flesh. In other words, it's ulcerated. It's deeper than his flesh. He's examining him. He says, it is a plague of leprosy. So in that, I look at the plague of the skin. It's the hair, and it's turned white. This plaque is white. And the plaque is not only white, it's a white patch, But the skin's here. It's deeper. It's like it's ulcerated the skin. It's down deeper than the skin. That's leprosy. The priest shall look on him and pronounce him, and underline it, unclean. Okay? The priest pronounces this. The priest. Verse 4. If the bright spot, now again, he looks on this place, it's a bright spot, be white in the skin of his flesh, and the sight be not deeper than the skin, and the hair thereof be not turned white, then the priest shall shut him up him that hath the plague 7 days. What he's saying is he's got a plaque, but it ain't below the skin. And usually what happens if there's a hair growing out of it, it'll turn white. Okay. And he says, what if it's not like that? Well, it ain't, but it could be. What's he going to do? What do you call this? Quarantine him. There you go. We came out of that. I tell people, I said, I don't need that quarantine. I said, guys, y'all think y'all come up with something new? This is already biblical. We've studied this. We've already gone. I said, guys, this ain't nothing new when you come up with quarantine with COVID. God had already put that in there. And right away, it's a good idea. Look what he says. He was going to put it 7 days. Underline the word 7 days. And the priest shall look on him the 7th day, and behold, if the plague in his sight be at a stay, and the plague spread not in the skin, then the priest shall shut him up 7 more days. Guess what? You get a plague, you got to tell them, and they're going to shut you up another 7 days. And the priest shall look on him again the 7th day, and behold, if the plague be somewhat dark, and the plague spread not in the skin, the priest shall pronounce him, quote, clean. It is but a scab, and he shall wash his clothes and be clean. In other words, you don't take any chance. Hey, that was just a scab. Nowadays, you'd be suing the priest because he made me stand. He should have had a better accurate diagnosis. I had to stand 7 days. That's how God did it to keep you clean. It says it's just a scab, but if the scab spread much abroad in the skin, verse 7, after that he hath been seen of the priest for his cleansing, he shall be seen of the priest again. In other words, if it starts to spread, go tell the priest, he'll see him again. Quote, again, verse 7. Finally, and if the priest see that, behold, the scab spreadeth, underline that, scab spreadeth in the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is, underline, it is leprosy. Because leprosy is going to spread, right? It's kind of like this very rare. It's like appendicitis. If you got appendicitis, boy, I've had this pain for about 3 weeks now, and it just ain't getting no better. No, it's not that, because you get appendicitis, usually within 8 to 12 hours, you're on the operating table because it's just going to get bad. It goes quick. Certain things get worse pretty bad, pretty fast. Certain things spread quickly. They spread fast. This thing's going to spread after so many days, okay? And that's what he means. And the hair that grows in it usually is going to turn white, right? Now we go to something different. Verse 9. When the plague of leprosy is in a man, then he shall be brought unto the priest, and the priest shall see him. Behold, if the rising be white in the skin, and if it had turned to hair white, those are the clues. When you see those, what is leprosy like? I got a scab, and the hair growing out is still dark, but if it turns white, leprosy does that. And there be a quick raw flesh in the rising. In other words, if it's raw flesh, that's different. It is an old leprosy in the skin of his flesh, and the priest shall pronounce him unclean. Why, it's old leprosy. There's a raw spot there. He shall shut him up, for he is unclean. Shut him up. They isolated these people. They had to be put.
Not shut him up.
I'm sorry, not shut him up.
Why? Why would they shut him up if he's unclean?
He shall not shut him up, for he is unclean. A typo? My Bible.
Mine says it too. Why would they shut him up though? He's unclean.
It's old leprosy. He is unclean. There was a reason for this. And I looked it up.
And the priest shall pronounce him unclean and shall not shut him up, for he is unclean. He don't get shut up because there's too many already in there, probably.
No, it's not.
Right.
I'm just saying
It's
that
probably on
what
the-
it is.
On the upside.
Is an isolation.
Okay.
That's what it is.
I'm going to read from David Guzik's commentary.
Yeah.
If a man or woman who was diagnosed with leprosy, they were no longer in isolation under the supervision of the priest. They lived on their own. Shall not isolate. In other words, you don't isolate them because there's no reason to. There's no reason to quarantine them. He's got leprosy, he's unclean, he's gone. There's no reason to isolate him. I got confused thinking.
So he's not among the camp. He's like
No,
separate.
he's gone. If you're going to isolate somebody, you're watching him to see if it's going to become it or not. If he's got it, he's gone. He's going to be forever outside the camp. There's no reason to isolate him. He's unclean. He's going to be away from the camp from then on. You can't be in the camp. You can't be around anybody. They were away from the other people, but that's why he's unclean. That's why they don't isolate him. Isolate means like quarantine them. There's no reason to quarantine them.
You're not coming back to it.
Yeah, you ain't coming. In other words, we've already diagnosed it. It's there. You got it. I'm sorry. Well, it might get better. No, this is old. You got it. It's old. It's there. You can't fix that.
Oh, so you can't. So you could get it, not get rid of it.
No, that's not what it means. Don't mean you can't get rid of it. It means you have it and you got it. You need to be. You got to be isolated. We're not going to quarantine you. You got to stay out in the camp of the lepers.
Okay, let me ask you another question.
Yeah.
So if it's an old leprosy, why is he still with the people and going to the priest?
I don't know why. I guess he didn't look at it
Because
he said.
Because
He
when
said
you read
this
further
person-
in here, it don't say they put them out of the camp.
Well, it says
I mean, I always thought they did. They put lepers outside the camp.
they did. They had to be.
Yeah, they got-
Every other way, because Miriam had to be outside of the camp immediately.
Yeah.
All of them had to be outside.
They'll talk about it, the flesh is raw. Yes.
Yeah. In other words, if it's an old leprosy, he's got it. There's no reason to quarantine them. He put them outside. He's unclean.
And most people didn't go close to him anyhow once you had it.
Yeah. Once you were diagnosed, and perhaps this is a person, hey, I got this spot on me. That's old leprosy. You got to go. There's no reason to isolate you and see if it spreads. It's old leprosy. It's in other words, it's not something it might spread, it might not. He said, this is easy to diagnose. You can see it. And you're sorry to say, you always seen those movies where you realize somebody's got it and all of a sudden realize, remember what was the first one we ever seen? Everybody cried, Old Yeller.
Yeah.
Remember the movie Old Yeller, Disney movie?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, who had leprosy?
No, leprosy. Somebody, when you get something, you can't do nothing about it. You got it. There's nothing we can do about it. You got to kill him. And he had to kill the dog. Remember? Old Yeller, because he got rabies. That's the dog. That dog's, but the best dog in the world, and you just realize there's nothing we can do about this.
Now, Lassie was the best dog.
Okay, there's some famous dogs, but the point is that sometimes you realize how tragic it is that you can't fix this. You just can't. Yeah, that was one of the movies I could never watch it again. Some movie you just realize I can't watch that. God. So anyway, he's out. It is old leprosy. He's unclean. And if a leprosy break out abroad in the skin, and the leprosy cover all the skin of him that hath the plague, from his head even to his foot, whosoever the priest looketh, then the priest shall consider, and behold, if the leprosy have covered all of his flesh, he pronounce him clean. That hath the plague, it is all turned white. He's clean, because it wouldn't cover the whole skin like that. It wouldn't cover the whole body. In fact, if it's white, it means it's probably, I think I was reading this, said it was probably new skin, but if it covered the whole body, he's actually clean. Some of these I forgot to underline my first time through here.
I know that is.
Okay, so if a leprosy break out abroad in the skin, means he thinks it's leprosy. The leprosy cover all the skin, right, from his head even to his foot. Then the priest shall consider, and behold, if the leprosy have covered all his flesh, he shall pronounce him clean. That plague, it is all turned white. He's clean. But when a raw flesh appears in him, he shall be unclean. Like certain things you're going to see, that's the indication that he's got leprosy.
You reckon it was not contagious anymore after the whole body turned white?
Well, white skin indicated healing of the disease had taken place. The white skin would be new skin had grown over it. At first sight, you think it's leprosy, but if it goes over the whole.
See, when they had the burn victims where they would have the skin that would have the white color because there's no melanin or there hadn't been any tanning of the skin, kind of like that.
Yeah, but it's white all over.
Yeah.
I mean, it's something else. It's not. You got something, but it's not that. It's not leprosy.
It's albino.
So a leper has outbreaks. You might
Yeah,
say they'll
a
have
leper's gonna have a scab, and
outbreaks.
it's going to slowly start spreading.
Because it makes it sound like this is the same person, and it's not.
Yeah.
They're just describing different.
Yeah, look,
scenarios.
this is the
Yeah.
indicate. This is the what the priest is going to do. It's really he's giving instructions to the priest on how to examine and diagnose leprosy. That's what, and all he's going to do is say, is he clean or is he unclean? That's really what he's doing, right? That's a whole pronouncement. Are you clean? Are you unclean? And this has to do with leprosy. We talked about the animals. We talked about this. Now we're talking about infectious disease, and this one in particular, clean and unclean. But if it's over the whole body, it's all turned white. But if it's a raw flesh, it's leprosy. Verse 16. Or if the raw flesh turn again and be changed into white, he shall come to the priest. And the priest shall see him, and behold, if the plague be turned white, then the priest shall pronounce him clean. That he hath the plague, he is clean. If it turns white, then it's not. The raw flesh wouldn't do that. The flesh also in which even in the skin thereof was a boil and is healed. In other words, if it heals, it's not that. It got better.
It's not contagious.
Yeah. It's like somebody said, well, I got this terrible lump in my neck. It could be a cancer. You're absolutely right. And 3 weeks later, it's gone away. You reckon it's cancer? No, cancers don't get better. They keep growing. They keep getting worse and worse and worse and worse. So certain things.
And that sucker gets so big and gets so fever. That's what that boil would look like, I think.
Yeah.
Person.
But it got better.
It's not contagious. Yeah, it got better.
And it got better, right?
The boil will eventually get better.
But he's talking about a boil on the skin. In verse 18, put a little mark above that 18 because that's what you're going to another section. So if the flesh also, in which even the skin is a boil, and that word boil is healed, and the place of the boil, there will be a white rising or a bright spot, white and somewhat reddish, and it be showed to the priest. And if when the priest seeth it, behold, it be in sight lower than the skin, and the hair thereof be turned white, the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a plague of leprosy broken out in a boil. In other words, an idea is a boil, but two things. It ulcerated under the skin. It turned the hair white in it. Those are the two things, right?
A boil could turn into leprosy.
It was a boil. It was broken out as a boil. But he says it's lower than the skin in verse 20. And what? The hair thereof be turned white. Those are the two keys we've been reading about. Not the skin, but when the plague, if there's a hair growing out of it, it turns white. That's one you look for. So, verse 21, but if the priest look on it, and behold, there be no white hairs therein, and if it be not lower than the skin, those are the two ideas, but it be somewhat darker, then the priest shall shut him up 7 days. Wait and look. Because again,
When it says lower than the skin, what's that mean?
you know, ever had an ulcer in the skin? A bump on the skin. Okay. This is the skin line. That's a bump. This is the skin line. That's an ulcer. It's below the skin.
Okay.
If it ulcerates down below the skin.
Gotcha.
Okay?
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Thank you, brother. Write that out. In other words, you got a white spot, but it's lower than the skin surface.
Mhm.
It's not a bump, but it's here. It's ulcerated down some, and that's considered leprosy. Two things about leprosy. It's lower than the skin, and the hair that grows out of it, and you got hair growing on your skin, if it turns the hair white, that's a definite sign that's leprosy. So far, that's what we're finding out here. We'll get to chapter 14 in a while. These are long chapters, by the way. They're tedious. That's why I don't want to take too much time with them. They're tedious, but you'll see some of the things in it. We're dealing with the boil now. Verse 20, he's going to shut him up 7 days. That's another quarantine. And if it spread much abroad in the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a plague. If it spread abroad. Verse 23, but if the bright spot stay in his place, in other words, it doesn't spread and spread not, it is a burning boil, and the priest shall pronounce him clean. Okay, got it? Now that's the boil. Probably the best way if you're going to do this here, if you mark in your Bibles, when that verse 18, just kind of circle that word boil. Just like you're going to go down here to that verse 24 and put a little line across it so you're going to something else. And if there be any flesh in the skin whereof there is a hot burning, and you're going to circle that word burning, and the quick flesh that burneth have a white bright spot, somewhat reddish or white, and the priest shall look upon it, and behold, if the hair in this bright spot be turned white, and it be slightly deeper than the skin, it is leprosy. Remember those two things. So far we're finding out if the hair turns white, it's deeper than the skin, that's leprosy. Broken out in a burning. Wherefore the priest shall pronounce him unclean, it is the plague of leprosy. However, but if the priest look on it, and behold, there be no white hair in the bright spot, and it be no lower than the other skin, but be somewhat dark, then the priest shall shut him up 7 days. And if the priest shall look upon him 7th day, and if it be spread much abroad in the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is the plague of leprosy. And that underline that it says spread much abroad in the skin. After the quarantine, spreading will tell you that. 28. And if the bright spot stay in his place and spread not in the skin, but it be somewhat dark, it is rising of a burning, and the priest shall pronounce him clean. For it is inflammation of the burning.
What's the burning, preacher?
A burn? A burn?
Yeah.
Skin?
They got burned.
The burning is
A burn like the fire?
A burn.
Flame?
But when it said, okay, so for it is an inflammation of the burn. Okay, got you. It makes
Yeah.
sense now.
He said you got to boil, you got to burn, but it looks kind of like leprosy. You have to get checked. Now you had to be on the honor system here too, didn't you?
What's that?
Well, you got over 1 million people there. If somebody didn't want to show it, they wouldn't have to. Unless it
Yeah,
was leprosy.
They ain't gotta go back to
but
work.
you know you could go ahead and ruin everybody around you.
Yeah, you could infect them.
That's right. I mean, you have to understand certain things are contagious.
Just like COVID, yeah, just like that. That was a good example.
I'll tell you, back in 1985, 86, when I started med school, we had something very contagious then. It's called AIDS. Everybody was scared to shake hands with anybody. You were scared to, it was a bad. We had another one, Legionnaire's disease was hard to diagnose. But AIDS just,
For me, it was worse than AIDS.
huh?
Legionnaire's disease was worse than AIDS.
Yeah.
There was certain ways you could catch AIDS, but everybody was afraid because they thought if you got near them, you got AIDS.
But the truth, it was a plague upon an immoral society. Because if you lived a holy life, you wouldn't get it. You know, the likelihood was slim and none, although there were people that got it from blood transfusions.
There was people that got
Man, a woman don't get it.
intravenous drug use too.
Oh, yeah. But I'm just saying people that didn't do anything
Those
immoral.
ones I went out on the drug
Yeah.
users that had AIDS.
You might remember somebody got it innocently from a blood transfusion.
Somebody did, yeah.
This famous person that died from it. Real famous. Arthur Ashe. Black guy that played tennis, very big tennis player. He got it. He had to have heart bypass. I think it was heart bypass he had, and he got it.
Magic Johnson got it, but he's still living.
Yep. He
Well,
came along at
never
the
got
right
AIDS,
time.
though. He had, what's the one that comes before full-blown AIDS?
Well, he had HIV, which becomes that later on when you get there. When the T cell count would get back then, when the T cell count would get below a certain amount, they diagnosed AIDS. It's far different now. But he came along right afterwards because Freddie Mercury died about that time. They were just coming out. That was at Research Triangle Park. I can't remember the name of the drug. It was the first drug that came out, the antiviral. It was the old HTLV3 virus, and they renamed it HIV. But it was viruses mutate, and that's what happened. But again, these are plagues. This one here is something it's considered you're unclean, and realizing it's on the honor system, but you could destroy your own family if you didn't tell somebody. You know. Now let's go to verse 29. Speaking about if a man or a woman have a plague upon the head or the beard. Now, a woman doesn't have a beard, but she's listed here, head or the beard, then the priest shall see the plague, and behold, if it be in sight deeper than the skin, and there be in it a yellow thin hair, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is dry scall, even a leprosy upon the head or the beard. Here it says yellow. And that's a difference there. We hadn't seen this. It's white hair, but it's below the skin, in the head or the beard. And if the priest look on the plague of the skull, and behold, it be not in the sight deeper than the skin, and that there is no black hair in it, then the priest shall shut him up at the plague of the skull 7 days. There's another quarantine. And the 7th day the priest shall look on the plague, and behold, if the, quote, skull be spread not, and there be no yellow hair, and the skull be not sight deeper than the skin, he shall be shaven. Well, it's got, remember, this is different than being on the skin with a little hair. This is the beard or the hair where you got lots and lots of hair. He says, quote, verse 32, and in the 7th day he looks on it, the skull spread not, no yellow hair, not in the sight deeper. 33, he shall be shaven, but the skull shall not he shave, and the priest shall shut him up that hath the skull 7 days more. In other words, so you can see it better. It's in his hair. Shave his head.
What is that word you keep saying?
Skull. What does it say in your Bible?
Itch.
The itch. Okay. It says SCALL in the King James.
Okay.
Ain't that a funny name? What's the big difference, ain't it?
But itch, I know what that is.
All right. So, in other words, everybody's got place on the body that itches. You got something that's raw that you scratch all the time, you know. But anyway, it says here he's going to shave his head, but not that part, so he can examine it 7 days. Verse 34. And in the 7th day, the priest shall look on the skull, and behold, if the skull be not spread in the skin, nor be in the sight deeper than the skin, the priest shall pronounce him clean, and he shall wash his clothes and be clean. But if the skull spread much in the skin after his cleansing, then the priest shall look on him, and behold, if the skull be spread in the skin, the priest shall not seek for yellow hair. He is unclean. If it's spreading, in other words, after he cleanses it and you can see it good, it starts to spread, he's leprosy. But if the skull be in his sight at a stay, that means it's not moving, and that there is a black hair grown up therein, the skull is healed. He is clean, and the priest shall pronounce him clean. All right? Now, verse 38. Put a little line above that. It's another section. If a man or a woman also, or a woman have in the skin of their flesh, bright spots, even white bright spots, then the priest shall look, and behold, if the bright spots in the skin of their flesh be darkish white, it is a freckled spot that groweth in the skin. He's clean. And the man whose hair is fallen off his head, he is bald, yet he is clean. Is he clean? Verse 40, that's another one. Talking about, when you lose hair, does that mean there's something wrong with you? For those of us that lose hair, it doesn't mean you got leprosy. Put a little line above that 40. What happens if a man loses his hair? It's fallen off. 41. And he that hath his hair fallen off from a part of his head toward his face, his forehead bald, yet he is clean. And if there be in the bald head or bald forehead a white reddish sore, it is a leprosy sprung up in his bald head, and he is bald, or his bald forehead. And the priest shall look upon it, and behold, if the rising of the sore be white reddish in his bald head or in his bald forehead, and as the leprosy appeareth in the skin of the flesh, he is a leprous man. He is unclean. The priest shall pronounce him utterly unclean. His plague is in his head. 45. We're coming to and the leper, in whom the plague is, his clothes shall be rent, his head bare, he shall be put a covering over his upper lip, and shall cry, unclean, unclean. We've heard that. That's what you had to cry. If you're a leprosy. Huh?
I'm ahead of you. Okay, there's the answer to her question.
Unclean, unclean. All the days wherein the plague shall be in him, he shall be defiled. And he is unclean, he shall dwell alone. Underline this, because I did this years ago. Without the camp shall his habitation be. Yeah, in other words, there's no reason to isolate. They have to dwell outside the camp. And they were still part of the people, but they could not dwell with others.
But now the clean ones could, right? The ones that were white from head to toe and determined.
Yeah, they were clean. They could dwell with them. And in chapter 14, you'll see that they can be cleansed. Chapter 14 is about, hey,
The law of the leper cleansing.
you could be cleansed. You can be cleansed. And we know in the days of Jesus, when he healed the leper, he said, go show yourself to the priest as the law says. Remember? Yeah, Jesus didn't have any trouble touching leprous people. That's the one thing about that you saw in Jesus. You know, as much as people were afraid to death with COVID, they were paranoid. I had people that wouldn't, I had people who they didn't think anything of it until they got sick. But you had people they were so paranoid, they wouldn't go to church.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no. We're talking like now. Did you know I'm just saying, there are people where churches, they still don't go to church. Did you know that? Today. I know one pastor.
Walking around with masks even today.
Yeah, they're walking around with masks.
Look at that from my
And they will, I have somebody ask me that, and people love that. Down here, why are you wearing that mask? You remember how sick I was this winter?
Yeah.
I was sick. I said, I've been sick. What's wrong with wearing a mask? I learned something about that COVID. When I wore a mask every day, I didn't get colds. I was okay. Man, I was sick for so long. I said, I put a mask on when I walk in. I pull it down. When I find out you're not sick, I pull it down. I'm okay then.
You didn't drive the car by yourself with a mask on.
No, I don't wear the mask. When you go in a room with people that's sick, I said, I learned something. I was sick so long, I can't afford to miss work. Goodness. But then you got these people that won't go to church, but yet they go to Walmart and they go to everywhere else, And I'm like, why in the world you go to Walmart and everywhere else, but you can't go to church? You know, they make excuses. I think the church is probably the worst. Let me tell you why. Because you sit there for 45 minutes to an hour. And everybody knows the vents are up here, right? There's usually one return in a room, right? Or two returns. Which means whenever there is, if you can see the air, the flow is a certain way, right?
Yeah.
Now, if everybody behind you coughing, you up there front, it's coming by you. It's going to spread because the airflow is going to go a certain way and it's going to go by you. I tell people, I said, you spray it. I said, that's because I had one of the ladies I work with, and I said, sister, now you can't prove you got that at the church. Yes, I can. How come? She says, a guy sitting in the amen corner. Name of 15 of us over there, and 10 people in the whole church got COVID, and every one of them sitting in the amen corner with me, so I know it had to be us.
Amen.
Said I was the only ones got it. We all did it each other. We were coughing on each other, and so I know we got it. But I tell people, you get in a small area, go to a movie. You go to a movie, guess what? You're going to sit there for 2 hours, and there's going to be somebody coughing. And it always is, but the airflow is a certain way. If you're not in that airflow, you're okay. But I tell people, look at the front, where all the vents use the front. When the air comes to the back, it all goes to the front to go out. That's the way it's pulled. That's why you sit in the back. But
Be on a plane.
oh wow. Oh, I'll tell you what, I don't know if I can get on a plane anymore. God, boy, I tell you what, Sister Rachel saved my life that night. I'll tell you what, I panicked. I ain't never got panicked in my life, but I'll tell you what, God, that bathroom had that bright light and all that air. I got it. It was but getting on it at nighttime when it's dark, I need to get on when it's daylight, God, it was one of those. Oh, God, everybody was so good. We have some good people. Watch out for each other. All right, what verse was it? Is it 47?
Mm-hmm.
Let's start. The garment also that the plague of lepers is in, whether it be a woolen garment or a linen garment, right? Now we're talking about, put a line above that 47. Now you're talking about garments, what you wear, things. The garment also had the plague of leprosy is in, whether it be woolen garment or linen garment. Did you know diseases can get into clothes? Yes. Have you ever noticed somebody that smokes cigarettes that's in the clothing? You know, it will be like that. That's the way it is. Other things will get in your clothes. You can tell it, you can smell it. And there's certain things that you carry germs in it. You do. And I tell folks, I said, leprosy was like that too. And they had to watch it. By the way, that's why we wash clothes too, right?
Amen.
Yeah, that's why we wash it. By the way, you ever know that's the way the good Lord has it? You're supposed to wash, but stay clean. You know, God does this for a reason. We're talking about cleanliness, whether it be in the warp. Sister Bonnie, would you do me a favor? Would you read verse 48?
Any woven or knitted material of linen or wool, any leather or anything made of leather.
Gotcha. Woven or, say it again?
Made of leather.
Woolen
or woven. And the King James says the warp or the woof.
The what?
WARP and WOOF, like woof woof and flip flea.
Is that a material?
Nah, it's talking about how same thing, what it means.
What's the part of it?
It's woven or it's wool. He says, whether it be warp, which is wool, or woof, which is woven, of linen or of woolen. In other words, no matter how it's put together, how it's made.
Oh, wait a minute. What you're reading, my Bible says contaminated with mildew. Then it says any woolen or linen clothing.
Okay, read verse 48.
Yeah, I just read 48.
That's it. That's what I'm saying. That's the one we read.
But that's what I'm saying. It's talking about any clothing contaminated with mildew. That's the subject, right? That's what my Bible
I haven't got mine in a subject. I'm just reading it. I said,
If you start at 47, verse 47,
yes,
what's your verse?
the
47?
garment. It's a garment.
Read the whole verse.
Yeah, the play woolen or linen, correct?
She's going over.
In other words,
He says
warp.
if any clothing is contaminated with mildew, any woolen or linen clothing.
Right.
That's 47. I'm asking,
40 mine says this. The garment also that hath the plague of leprosy is in, whether it be a woolen garment or a linen garment. King James says in verse 47, the garment also that,
Sound like it's talking about two different things.
yeah, it sure does.
Yeah.
The plague of leprosy, whether it be the woolen garment or linen. In other words, no matter how it's put together, whether it be made of skin, that's leather, or anything made of skin, that's leather. Verse 48, 49, and if the plague be greenish or reddish in the garment.
Right there. What does mildew turn? What color?
Green.
Or red. I've seen red mildew too.
Well, it says the plague, that's what you're calling it here.
Yeah.
If it's that color, or in the skin, or in the warp, or in the woof, or in any skin, it is a what? Plague of leprosy.
Well, see, yours says plague of leprosy, but King James does.
Yeah.
But the NIV don't.
What does it say? Mildew?
Wait a minute. Which one was you on?
49.
Yeah, mildew. It is
Yeah.
spreading mildew and must be shown to the priest.
In other words, you're going to show it to the priest. In other words, if you see a greenish or reddish plaque in a garment, no matter what it's like, it says if it's in leather, it is a plague of leprosy. It shall be showed to the priest. In other words, it can be this. You're going to go and show to the priest and let them see it.
Will mildew, right?
Yeah. And the priest shall look upon the plague and what? Shut up it that hath the plague 7 days. You got to quarantine that 7 days. And he shall look on the plague on the 7th day. And if the plague be spread in the garment, either in the warp or in the woof, or in the skin, or in any work that is made of the skin. In other words, the type of material or even the leather, if it spreads at all, the work is made of skin. The plague is a fretting leprosy. He is unclean. Does it say leprosy in your Bible in verse 51? What does it say?
In verse 51,
The last part.
it calls it mildew. It says because the mildew is destructive, the article must be burned up.
Well, it says here he's unclean. In verse 52, it says burn it.
It says he must burn up the clothing or the woven or knitted material.
That's the 40.
Or wool or linen.
That's
or
52.
Leather.
Yeah.
That's
But
52.
51 at the end, does it say it's leprosy?
No, it is a destructive mildew. The article is
Okay. The King James Version says it's a fretting leprosy. And then does it say it's unclean?
Yeah, it says it's unclean.
And
The article is unclean, not person.
Yeah. But it is unclean.
Yeah.
Yeah. The King James says it's leprosy. That's why it's unclean. He shall therefore burn that garment, whether warp or woof or woolen or in linen or in anything of skin, whether the plague is, for it is a fretting leprosy, it shall be burnt in the fire. That's the way to cleanse it. You kill it, destroy it. Right? That's pretty clear. And if the priest shall look upon, and behold, the plague be not spread in the garment, either in the warp or in the woof or in anything of the skin, verse 54, then the priest shall command that they wash the thing wherein the plague is, and he shall shut it up 7 more days. In other words, it ain't spread. Hey, wash it. Wait 7 more days. Huh?
I just don't understand how an infectious disease for a person can spread on a piece of material. I do understand how mildew can multiply, because I've seen it. But I don't understand.
I don't understand why
James keeps calling it leprosy.
I don't know why the NIV would say it's mildew, and if it's not, it didn't make it unclean because of mildew.
The garment?
How's that going to hurt the person?
We get on Leviticus, because you're going to see mildew
I
in
don't know
the
why
house. They
NIV
burn them.
Gotta be
But
on-
guess what?
The King James calls it leprosy.
Correct. Why?
Okay,
You're unclean. It's unclean.
right.
Yeah.
Mildew to me is unclean.
Well, we know that, but
Is this, King James referring to leprosy as like a universal term?
no, because some of it you got other scabs, and it
Well, that's what in terms of unclean things.
Yes.
Mildew, like what?
no, it doesn't mean that, because what it says leprosy is pretty global,
Right.
right? But so you have to look at specific things to say no, that's not leprosy. This is real leprosy. But they were told that all of it would be considered leprosy, and you got to have it examined.
But I'm looking up in the what's it called?
Blue Letter Bible.
Yeah, where the word leprosy is also translated as mildew in certain things.
Mm-hmm.
So leprosy is just a big umbrella, and other
No.
things under it.
In the King James version of the Bible, leprosy is always a type of sin. It's always considered bad. It's unclean. It spreads and it eats away. It's a type of disease that you were unclean. You had to say that.
Yeah, I
A person, yeah.
Well, how would it eat on your garment?
That's
No.
what we don't
It spread on the garment.
Right, but it could be.
It says it spread
Leprosy dealing
right?
before
On
that
your-
on your skin would spread on the garment.
on the garment. We get on the garment and it would eat, and actually not eat, but actually spread. It says it doesn't say eat.
Yeah.
It says spread.
It was spread.
That's a good point to look up about this thing about the mildew and all, because to
We
me,
really need to go to the Greek.
Because leprosy,
The
you
King
would think-
James is not the first Bible written, preacher, right?
correct.
Right?
I don't think the NIV was before the King
No,
James.
the NIV was after the King James, but I'm not saying it's always
No.
right neither.
But the first Bible, is Hebrew
Right.
and the Hebrew. No, it's not Aramaic here. This is Hebrew.
Oh.
The Aramaic is in Daniel. When you get
So
to the
it's a bacteria. It's not a
But it's
virus.
dealing with
As far as
the skin.
bacteria,
Skin.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I was
but
thinking-
I just don't see an infectious disease on a piece of material that can spread. I'm just being.
Hold on, I got
trying
to
to understand.
I have an interlinear. Chapter 13. That's
It's a
Verse number-
droplet. It says it spreads
I don't
through droplets, like if somebody was to sneeze on it, it says it spreads through prolonged close contact with droplets from an untreated person, goes around. 95% of people have natural immunity. So maybe if somebody had it on them, had leprosy, like wore this shirt, if you were to touch this shirt, I would assume that that's how it was spread.
But how could you see it on cloth?
You ain't gonna be able to.
Actually see it, and it dealing with the skin. It's like,
I imagine it would have that coloration if it was leprosy, if it was gonna cause
yeah.
a change in the skin.
That's exactly what they're saying.
I see what you're saying.
In people, it's malignant skin. It's mildew. They call it mildew, mold. Yeah,
I know Leviticus talks about mildew and mold.
correct.
And that's still true for today.
This is
You got it.
right, but it's still unclean. Correct. It's still unclean. The garment or the wall or whatever. Let me try to finish this chapter up if I can. We'll look it up. Yeah, he's going to, in verse 54, he does 7 days more. And the priest shall look on the plague after it is washed. And behold, if the plague have not changed its color, and the plague be not spread, it is unclean. Though thou shalt burn it with fire, it is fret inward, whether it be bare within or without. And I don't know what in the world that means, inward or outward. It is a fret inward. Here, it continues eating away, whether damage inside or outside. I don't understand that, eating away. But you're going to destroy the garment. Verse 56. If the priest look on the plague, and it be somewhat dark after the washing of it, he shall rend it out of the garment and out of the skin, the leather, or out of the warp, or out of the woof, and it shall appear still in the garment, whether in the warp or in the woof or in anything in the skin. It is spreading plague. Thou shalt burn that wherein the plague is with fire. And the garment shall either warp or woof, or whatsoever thing that be skin be, which she shall wash. If the plague be departed from them, then it shall be washed with the second time, and it shall be clean. If you can wash it away, it is clean. If you can get rid of it, and then you wash it the second time. And the summarization is, if you underline it, this is the law of the plague of leprosy. Is that correct? Or is it the law of plague of
Infectious diseases.
Yeah, in a garment of woolen linen, or in the warp of the woof, or anything of skins, pronounce it clean and pronounce it unclean. So again, this is about cleanliness. And this, he spoke about the skin of a person. He went through the part of the body. We talked the head, the beard, and he talked about garments, clean and unclean. So pretty much all he's talking about, these are things they did to keep the people clean. And they would have to quarantine. So it was an honor system, but the priest would have to get used to it. I'm pretty sure after done it so many times, you figure out, you get used to what was right and what was wrong. You know, it's kind of like in your job, you can figure out stuff quick. You can see things, you know things pretty quick. But that's clean, keeping people without being sick, you know?
So you had that honor system with COVID too.
Yeah.
Have you been outside the country?
Yeah, they ask every time you go in someplace. Yeah. But you know, as much as we have that, did you know when giving blood, they're trying to get away with that word about are you a homosexual? They're trying to take that out because they say it's discriminatory. Even though we know that gay men account for 61% of all AIDS cases.
Which is worse, a man that you work beside if it's got AIDS and they can't tell you he's got AIDS, but you work. I mean, that's just as bad.
If you give blood, it's the honor system. But yeah, I mean, because that blood's high risk.
You ought to know
So they're used.
You work beside has AIDS. You ought to know that.
Well, they're going to check it anyway, but you don't know it's 100%. And I can tell you, having been a person who used to give blood a lot, and you get a letter in the mail saying, we need a vial of your blood. Please go to this blood bank and have it drawn. We need to test your blood. And I call them, what happened? Well, the person, something happened to them. They died, and we need to check. They received some pints of blood. Yours was one of the pints.
Oh,
so
geez.
I was in Florence at the time. And it took, I gave the blood in. 2 weeks later, I got a letter in the mail, and it said the person had 17 pints of blood, and it wasn't AIDS, it was hepatitis. They died of hepatitis, but I was wasn't my blood. I didn't have it. But for 2 weeks, I went through that like, if I'm going to touch my family, going to be around your kids.
I thought they did test the hepatitis in the blood.
They did. Back then, that wasn't that good, and they didn't know. You know, we're a lot better now. Oh my goodness! It's like the last I saw was 1 in 750,000 the risk of getting through. It's really so much better. But everybody's blood's different. By the way, the life is in the blood. God He said it for a reason, because it is so complex. You think the brain's complex? Try the blood. It's beyond trying to make artificial blood. It's just amazing. And they're finding more and more and more and more and more and more the more you go through it. You know? By the way, you can't transfuse people's blood all the days of your lives. You know why? You're going to develop antibodies against you. You'll finally destroy all of them because there's things in it'll reject it, because eventually you got too many things in your blood. It's so complex. If it's not exactly like you, your body will reject it. It makes antibodies and it'll kill it. As soon as you give it to them, they'll destroy it. So, well, let's stand and have a word of prayer. Be dismissed. Yeah, if you get transfusions after so many, your body keeps fighting off these.
What's not common to it?
Yeah, most people are having a reaction. But you keep doing it, the body makes antibodies against anything against it. And eventually, as soon as you give it it starts destroying the cells. Anyway, God bless you. Thank you for your time. Good to go. Well, at least got through chapter 13, because that's a